And a good morning, afternoon, and a very good evening to you. We're going to people with tube, hope everything grand, and all is well in your world. Hi there, everybody. Today's vid, everybody, we're going to be talking about the John Frusciante guitar tone using a Fender amplifier. A lot of people have asked about this in the past, and in all fairness, I still stand by kind of the whole thing of if you want John Frusciante's guitar tone, you need a Marshall. Or you need a pedal that will marshalize the amp you're using. If it's a Fender, you need a pedal that's going to marshalize, that's a great word, that amp to make it more Marshally. Because John's tone is rooted in Marshall. It's not rooted in Fender amps or anything else, really. John's core tone for the longest time, that sound that everyone wants, is a Marshall. It's not Fender. And as a result, when you kind of try and go after John's tone using a Fender amp or anything kind of that kind of ilk, it's a real struggle and a real pain to get kind of like his tone because it's not there. And the things that are missing from a Fender amp that's there in a Marshall are kind of like compression, different compression. Marshalls are darker, they have more mid-range. Fenders are a lot more treblier. You don't have the right kind of overall tone stack, if you will, tone structure in the amp to approximate a Marshall. They just don't do it. And also, they're far too clean most of the time. The clean headroom on Fenders is insane. You're never going to get, the right breakup on a Fender as you would on a Marshall. So John's tone. And I've spoken about this a million times in previous videos, but I'll bring it up again. John's tone is a combination of two amplifiers on at the same time, set differently to each other. So John uses the Marshall Major and the Marshall Silver Jubilee. The Marshall Major is set up cleaner than the Jubilee, but it's still not clean. Don't go to the illusion that John's tone is clean. It's not. It's more distorted than you think it is, trust me. It's more overdriven, should I say. And it's more compressed as well. And that is the key to John's entire tone and controlling pedals is compression. And Marshalls do this a lot when they're wound up. So John runs his Silver Jubilee dirtier than the Major, and the Major cleaner than the Jubilee. But they're still both very distorted. Well, overdriven, not distorted really. Unless you listen to Hyde Park, and then it's definitely distorted. But that's how he ran them at the time. So, because of the way he runs them, that's how he's able to control volume jumps. And this is one of the key problems you'll have with a Fender amp, or any amp that you're not really running to the right kind of gain structure of John, is as soon as you stick on a DS2 or an Ibanez Wah, the volume goes through the roof and it sounds horrible and harsh and nasty. So the way John runs his amplifiers on full tilt near enough, apart from the Major, sorry. The Jubilees pretty much ran flat out on the clean channel. And then the Majors ran a bit further back because it's a 200 watt monster. You don't need to run that thing flat out. And also, Majors don't sound very good flat out. They sound good around the 4 to 6 mark on the volume. Maybe around 7 if you're pushing it. Anywhere kind of like 8 and above, the amp kind of flubs out and just kind of goes bleh, and just sounds a bit kind of like, cack. They're not a very good sound at that level. Plexis in general don't really sound great maxed out sometimes. Some do certain times, but not all the time. And the Major is no exception to that rule, being a Plexi. So John doesn't run that one as hot as he runs the Jubilee. So the Jubilee is dirtier and the Major is cleaner-ish, but not. Okay, so I hope that makes some kind of sense. So when you kind of translate that concept over to a Fender, you struggle because normally on a clean channel of a Fender amp, the clean headroom is so big that to get that thing to a point where it's compressing and controlling pedals, it'll either have to be on 10 or it just won't happen. Fender amps are very clean. They're super, super clean. So what you have to do instead of that is either use a pedal or the dirty channel of a Fender amp. So the way I would always recommend it is get a pedal. use a pedal to do it. It's just easier. You don't have to, mess around with the amp, getting it tweaked and whatnot. It's just easier to get a overdrive pedal that will simulate the John thing and simulate that compression. Now, this is the problem as well, is not all OD pedals will do that, the right compression to control the Ibanez Wah and the DS2. The ones I've found are the Marshall Jackhammer and the Tone City Golden Plexi. They're the two. They're the only two overdrives I have that will do the John thing. So I just think that's the best route to go, personally. As things stand, if you've got a Fender amp and you want the John Frusciante thing, get a pedal that will marshalize the clean channel on your Fender. So set your Fender's clean channel very neutral and just use a pedal to take it the rest of the way. And basically dirty up that clean channel and just kind of have the amp there as power, as a clean platform for a pedal to sit on. Because most of the time you're just going to struggle. You're just going to struggle to get John's tone out of a Fender. Because, like I say, they're just too clean. And they're just too bright. There's the sparkle of a Fender amp is a lot brighter than the sparkle on a Marshall. A Marshall's sparkle is dark. It's a dark sparkle. Whereas a Fender sparkle is super bright. So, the easiest way to do this is get a pedal, use that, and go from there. You know what I mean? And use the pedal as you're always on. And that's what I was doing in the intro jam today. And in a minute, when we get to the first example, I will be using the Marshall Jackhammer to show you what I mean. And I'll show you how I've got that set up, and I'll show you how I've got the amp set up, and we'll go from there. There's also something else I need to talk about as well that I'm doing with my Fender, which I think is a must for any Fender amp. So where are we? So that's the easiest route. Get a pedal. Just use a pedal and just use your amp as power, basically. Yeah, that's what I would recommend. But if you really want to use your amp, then to get that clean tone, then depending on what the Fender amp is you've got, I would say you're going to struggle even more. Because Fender's distortion is not the right tone. It's not the right tonal structure. There's far too much treble in there, and there's not enough kind of barky mid-range, and there's not enough kind of the right presence, if you will. So you're always going to struggle. But it is doable with certain things. One thing I would always recommend, if you're determined to use your amp to get John's tone, is you need a Celestion speaker. Do not go with a Jensen speaker or a Fender speaker. They will not give you the sound. You need a Celestion speaker, which will go a long way in improving the mid-range of your amp. This my Fender Stage has a Celestion speaker in it, so that's part of the battle won already. Because it's got more mid-range than a standard Fender, but it's still not everything. So, still the easiest route is a pedal. But like I say, we'll go down the line of the amp now. So if you're determined to get it from your amp, get a Celestion speaker. They just work better with Fenders. They sound better with Fenders, and they give you more mid-range and take some of the harshness away. They don't take it all away though. And also, you've still got the problem with not having the right gain structure inside the amp. Most Fender amps' distortions, even on their lowest gain setting, will still be too distorted to do the John thing. Because John's dirty clean tone lies in this kind of like grey area between totally clean and overdrive. It's kind of in the middle. Because it's not fully overdriven, but it's not fully clean. It's like a bit of a kind of like a mid-ground, if you will. And not a lot of Fender amps' drive channels will do that. You will struggle to kind of find a mid-ground with those amps. Especially things like DeVille's. DeVille's dirty channels are just not very nice, and you're going to struggle with stuff like that, or Deluxes, or Hot Rod stuff like that. You're just going to struggle a lot with this kind of thing. Even on like Fender Champions and stuff like that, and stuff like that. The Fender Stage is the closest amp I've I've found that kind of gets close to that kind of Marshall-y thing. You can kind of simulate a Marshall thing. We'll get to that in a bit. So, and also bear this in mind as well, that when you hear John's guitar tone, you're never hearing one amp. This is so important. I feel this kind of gets a smidgen overlooked quite a lot of the time, which is John's tone is not made up of one amp sound. It's made up of two doing one thing. So you kind of, you're never going to be 100%, so you just have to approximate. So, yeah. So number one key thing is get a Celestion speaker. And if you can't do that, then we'll talk about this other mod in a sec. So, but that is important because, again, it gives you more mid-range, and you need more mid-range to get the John thing that Fenders inherently don't have. Fenders don't have mids. And the mids they do have are high mids, and you need something with a low mid kind of sound, Marshall-y, and darker, really. And Fenders are just notoriously bright, they're a brighter sound. So, Celestion speaker or a pedal, and those kind of things. Another thing to do is the Steve Ray Vaughan mod. What do I mean by the Steve Ray Vaughan mod? This. One sec. Okay, so, yeah, what do I mean by the Steve Ray Vaughan mod? Where's the grill gone? It's here. So, this is something I do to every one of my Fender amps, and I've recently done it to my stage because I just prefer it this way, is this. Gaffer tape. And it's just really cool, the fact that it has to be an asterisk. For some reason, I've found that this works best. For some reason, I don't know why, but this is what I do. So, basically, get like some kind of like cloth or duster or something like that, pin it on the inside of a grill cloth, or if you can't get this off, just do it on the outside. And basically what you do is you get a gaffer tape asterisk, basically, like, a star, if you will. And what this does, it cuts down the high end even more. That's a ridiculously noisy motorbike. Do you really need to rev it that much? Anyway, so, I don't know if that came across on camera, but yeah, so this is what I do to help with the John tone on a Fender amp. And this is what I do to every Fender amp I've ever had. Because I just prefer this. And what this does, it cuts down the high end of the amp. So it just gets rid of the treble. So if the treble's like here, this mod will go zoom and just cut it down, and it'll be down here. And so it just gets rid of a high end. And again, gives you more mid-range, which is important. So this is the next mod you can do. And if you can't take the front grille off, like the stage is just Velcroed on, and a few other Fenders are just Velcroed on. If you can't do this, just do it on the front grill cloth. Just get a gaffer tape thing on the front and find where your speaker is, and just basically kind of like, get the middle of the thing right over the middle, the dust cover of the speaker, over the middle of the speaker. And this, like I say, this will cut down on a lot of treble, and it's really, really cool. I call it the Steve Ray Vaughan mod because he's the first guy I saw doing it, basically. Funny enough, there are pictures of John. If you look at some pictures from John from 2004, if you look at his Marshalls, they've done this as well. Especially on the Jubilee cab. And both, to be fair with you. And it's always on the 57. If you look at some pictures of John's Marshalls from 2004, there's a little square of gaffer tape over where they're miking the cab up with a 57. So John does the Steve Ray Vaughan mod as well. So bear that in mind. So then that's on a Marshall. So either way, but we're on Fenders right now. So this is mod number 3, if you will. So the ways, just to recap, the ways to get John's tone out of a Fender amp is ideally a pedal. Celestion speaker, if you can't do that, that's fine, but that will help. And another thing is to do the Steve Ray Vaughan mod, which will help cut down on high as well. And also, if you have like a Fender speaker or a Jensen speaker, this will give you more mid-range as well. So, you don't really need to change the speaker. But I still stand by the easiest way to do this is to just get a pedal. An overdrive pedal. It just makes life so much easier. I would still recommend doing this, personally. I recommend doing this to any Fender amp whatsoever, regardless of what it is, because I just think they sound better with this. I don't know why. I mean, again, because I do know why. It's because I like darker guitar tones. And I always find this just this is just ace. And I did this the other week, and I just prefer this, you know, so much better. The Fender Stage sounds great without this, but I prefer this because it just darkens it down and just gets rid of some of the highs, and it just gives you more mid-range and low, and that just makes me happier. You don't really lose the Fender tone. It just makes it more manageable, if that makes sense. It doesn't want to rip your face off as much. So, but I would still recommend getting a pedal. Pedal is key. Selecting speaker is an afterthought. Oh, and also, you know, and the Stevie Ray Vaughan thing is a must as well. So without further ado, let's talk about how to get John's tone with a pedal. So let me show you what pedal I'm using and how I've got the amp set up. So at this point in time, I'm using the Marshall jackhammer. Okay. So, well, I'll tell you what. Come here, people of a tune. So this pedal now is on all the time, and this is what I was using in the intro jam to basically control everything. So I've got it set to the OD mode. I don't know how well you'll be able to see this because it blurs, the camera does a close thing. But I've got it set to the OD mode. I have gain about 11 o'clock, and I have volume at 3 o'clock. So gain is at 11 o'clock, volume is at 3 o'clock. Sorry, gain is at 11 o'clock, volume is at 3 o'clock. Treble and bass, they're turned down all the way, so I'm not using them really. They're just set, well, they are being used, but they're on, you know, 0. And then I'm using the contour and the frequency dial to kind of like dial the tone in a bit more. So the frequency dial, which is the top one, because it's dual concentric. Sorry, everybody, my filming skills are not great when it's like this. But the frequency dial is turned all the way up. So I have this top dial turned all the way up, and I have the contour dial at 12 o'clock. So that's what I'm using there. That's how I'm using it. And that basically what that's doing is giving me my John tone. The Fender itself is set really, really clean, and I'll show you that in a sec when we do some isolated noise. And then what this is doing is it's able to control the DS2 and the Ibanez wah. So there's no volume jump because of this pedal. So that's how I've got that set up. The amp is set up like this. And we're on the clean channel, and it's set up super clean. And I've got treble at 6. And the reason the treble's so high, because I don't really like treble, and I don't really use it, but the reason the treble's set so high is because of the Stevie Ray Vaughan mod on there. It's wiping out the treble, so I can use the treble on a more balanced level to brighten up the sound. So I've got the treble at 6, mid is at 4, and I've got bass at 3. So, and this is just set up totally clean. Okay, and that's it, and that's what I've got there. So it's very, very simple. So now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to show you how it sounds. So the first thing you'll hear is with the jackhammer off, and I'll show you the volume jump I get with the DS2 and the Ibanez wah. I'll show you that volume jump, and then I'll engage the jackhammer, and I'll show you how it differs in sound, and hopefully you'll be able to hear the difference in tonality as well. And so I'm going to put the grill cloth back on and reset the camera up over there and show you pedals, because I still believe that if you want John's tone with a Fender amp, it's just best to get a pedal. It's just the easiest route, it's the cheapest route. And also doing the Stevie Ray Vaughan thing, you know, the gaffer tape trick on the front of the amp over the speaker. It's just those two things, and you can't really go wrong. You can get a really good close approximation by doing those two things alone. But you can get it out of the amp if the amp is a certain way. But this doesn't work on every Fender amp. So the easiest way to do this is to get a pedal. So without further ado, let me show you what I've got. Okay, so this is nothing on. This is a jackhammer bypass to this point in time. Okay, so that doesn't work. Okay, so that's too clean. There's no compression there whatsoever. So engaging jackhammer. Okay, so hopefully you could hear there, like, you know, going between just the Fender and then kicking the jackhammer on. There's no volume jump when I kick on the DS2 or the Ibanez Wild then. They actually behave themselves and they become warmer and rounder and just nicer in general. So, just let you show that again, just like show you there's no volume jump. So, without the jackhammer, it's just super clean. And with a jackhammer, it's just got more... It's got more mids, it's got more, you know, a little bit more gain, it's a bit barkier and it's darker. You know, hopefully you can kind of hear that. And then, and then because that jackhammer is basically giving me the compression I need to kind of control those two pedals, the Diva pedals of John's setup, I can kick them on, I can have them on flat out, which they are, everything's turned to 10. And it'll just be, it'll work. So I'll just let you show us, quickly let you see the no volume jump. This is without the jackhammer. Okay, so without the jackhammer, that sound is massively unpleasant. Especially when the DS2 just jumps out and rips your face off like a banshee. And it's horrible. And the Ibanez Wild is no better either. So, what we're going to do now, like I say, and well, before we do that actually, that's the best way to go, I think, is just to get a pedal. Just get a pedal that's going to give you that kind of marshy overdrive, set the Fender amp clean, you know, because it's, well, I ain't got it plugged in anymore, but just set your amp like Nile Rodgers, kind of funk clean, and then just stick a pedal on, like an overdrive pedal. Like I say, the ones I recommend are the Marshall Jackhammer and the Tone City Golden Plexi. And that will then marshalize the amp to be a bit more like that. And that is the way I recommend to go. I do not recommend trying to get John's tone out of a Fender amp using the amp, because it's just really hard work. In all fairness, the Stage is really the only Fender amp I've ever plugged into that gets closest. And I've tried so many Fender amps. I've tried DeVille's and Deluxes and all sorts of stuff, like, you know, and none get really that close, because they're not the right sound. They're just not the right tone. So the Stage is the closest, but the Stage is the closest because it's got a Celestion speaker which boosts the mids. It's got the Steve Ray Vaughan mod, which again lowers the treble, and it's just got it's got a lot more milder, warmer distortion in it than quite a lot of Fenders, to be honest with you. It's a really kind of like classic rock sounding Fender, this is. So yeah. So bear that in mind. I would just go for a pedal, but I will talk about what I'm doing now. So now what we've done, what I've done now is, and what you're gonna hear in a sec, is basically I have unplugged the jackhammer and basically everything. The only pedals that are in the chain now are the Ibanez Wah, the Boss DS2, and a fuzz pedal, which I won't use, but it's just there. But you know, because John likes his fuzz, but I probably won't use it. I'll just use the DS2 and the Ibanez Wah. So they're the only three pedals in line now, two of which are really important, the Boss DS2 and the Ibanez Wah, to John's tone. But what I've done now is I've switched over to the distortion channel on the Stage. I've gone to the More drive, so the red setting on the Stage, and what that's done now is it's giving me a compressed signal. So the clean channel is not compressed. It's just tons of headroom, as much as you can go. It's never going to break up. I could turn that channel to 10 and it's never ever going to break up and give me any compression. It's just going to be clean all the way to the top. So you use the distortion channel, and I've talked about this so much in the past. This is the key to get John's tone. You need a distortion channel, and then basically kind of harness the compression you get from that channel. You know what I mean? So we've switched over to the More drive, and all we've got is 3 pedals in line now, and I won't get volume jumps. And it's in the ballpark of John's tone. With Fender amps, you're always it's more with any amp you have to approximate. You're never going to sound 100% like John, because you're not him. But with a Fender amp, you have to approximate even more than you would with, like, say, a Marshall or a Katana or the Orange or whatever. So you just have to bear that in mind. It's never, you can get close, but it's never going to be quite as close, and you could always get closer with a more Marshall-y voiced amp, so to say. So we switched over to the red channel on the Fender, and the only pedals we've got now are the Ibanez Wah, the DS2, and the fuzz. So just to let you know the signal chain, we're going from the Fender amp into the Ibanez Wah, from the Ibanez Wah into the DS2, from the DS2 into the fuzz, and then from the fuzz to the guitar. The DS2 is set to mode 2 with everything on 10. The Ibanez Wah is set with the depth dial on the side to turn all the way up to 10. And the fuzz is everything to 10 as well. So everything's maxed out. The amp is set like this. I mean, I hope you're able to hear me. So the amp is set with the drive all the way off. So I've got the distortion turned all the way down because the more drive on the stage is really distorted. You get a lot of gain out of that. So having it on 1, well, basically turned all the way down, gives me the perfect amount of overdrive I need to get that kind of John tone. So then, moving on to the EQ section, I have bass at 6, so quite a lot of bass. The mid is at 4, again, boosting those mids up, and I have the treble on 2, which is just adding a little bit of sparkle, but not a great deal. In all fairness, the treble on your amp and Fender amps in general might vary. You might not have to use it, you might have to use it a bit more. It totally varies. So that's how I've got this set up, and because I'm using a distortion channel, I have that compression there that's not there with the clean channel. So I can get away with running these pedals flat out the way they are without a volume jump. So, without further ado, and I really hope this is making sense, I am terrified that this video is garbage. So I'm scared. So without further ado, let me show you what this sounds like. So again, at this point in time, it's just a Fender amp with 3 pedals. Okay, so let me show you. Okay, so there you go. So it is possible-ish. It sounds pretty close. It sounds pretty close, but it's still not there. You know what I mean? It's not... I feel like, I can get closer using my Katana or my Marshall MGs or the CR120. I feel I can get closer. But it's pretty good, you know what I mean? But the stage is rare in that way, you know what I mean? The stage does it quite well because of the Celestian speaker and obviously the Stevie Ray Vaughan mod. And the fact that the distortion channel is voiced a little bit more kind of classic rock and a bit more mid-rangey than kind of like than normal, really. It's one of the reasons I love it so much. So just bear that in mind. So if you know, but it is possible, and I wanted to show you that it is kind of possible, and you don't get volume jumps because, like I say, overdrive channel. Overdrive is the key. It's the absolute key. It's not the CE1. It's not the booster in the CE1. It's not the MXR microamp. It's not that. It's amplifier compression or pedal compression simulating amplifier compression. That is absolute the key to John's tone. It really is. I swear to you, I promise you. You know, because the CE1 is a clean boost. The MXR is a clean boost. That's not what you need to get John's tone. You need an overdrive compression. And the compression pedal will do the job, but it won't sound right because it's still too clean. You need that compression you get from overdrive. So I know. So it is possible, but at the same time, it's still not quite there. I reckon I don't know. To me, I felt like it sounded closer with the pedal, but I feel that's pretty close. But like I say, the stage is rare, you know, to do that. It's really rare that it actually kind of to find a Fender that does that kind of thing is really rare. So just bear that in mind, people of the tube. So is there anything else I need to talk about? I think that's covered everything. But just to show you really quickly though, sorry about the noise, everyone. Just to let you see. So yeah, these are the settings. So just let you see. Whoa. So yeah, see everything's on 10. I can't turn these up any further, and the mode is 2. I didn't use the fuzz, but everything's flat on that. And then the depth dial on the Ibanez is flat out as well. And like I say, what you just heard was basically from the Fender into the Ibanez to the turbo distortion to the fuzz to the guitar, and that's it. You know, it's as simple as that. But like I say, it's all about compression and overdrive compression. It's not a compressor pedal. It's compression from an overdrive. So the jackhammer does it, and the stage will do it, but not every Fender amp will do this. I mean, in all fairness, if you do want to stick with your Fender amp to get John's tone, just get a pedal. It's so much easier. It's so much less hassle and heartache and just kind of like, you know, stress. It's just better. So that's what I'd recommend. But it is doable, but not on every Fender amp. You have to bear in mind that the stage is very rare in its tone and the way it's voiced. So yeah, so that's it, everybody. So just to show you, it is possible, but you know, just bear these things in mind, like the Stevie Ray Vaughan mod, overdrive pedal. Like I say, compression, overdrive compression is key. Forget the CE1, forget the MXR microamp. They're pointless. It's not about them. It's about the compression and the distortion, overdrive, whatever you want to call it. Dirty clean is the way to go. You know, that's what you need to control these pedals, and that's what John's tone is. So I hope this video has made some form of sense. I am utterly terrified that this video has not made any sense, and it's just been a lot of waffle and a waste of everybody's time. So I certainly hope that isn't the case. I really do, because I'm terrified now. I'm just gonna like live in fear of this video now. But hopefully, you know, it shows that it is doable, but with a certain things, like, you know, like I said, everything I've spoke about. So but bear in mind, please, you know, John Frusciante fans of the world, just, you know, hear me when I say it's not the CE1's boost. It's not this, that, and the other. It really is John's amps that really control everything. The CE1 might have a little hand in it, but it's very small hand. You know, it's not doing a great deal. It's the amps are doing so much more than you think, and the tone is a lot more distorted than you think as well. It's not clean at all. So and it's not sparkly clean either. You know, you got to think that as well. It's not, John's tone is a lot of mids and a lot of bass. You know, a lot of oomph to it. You know, it has to have. If John's tone was really trebly, it would never cut. Which is one of the reasons why I always thought Josh's tone never cut. It was too trebly. You know, that's why you can never hear him. He just got lost in the mix. Whereas John's tone has got a lot of mid-range and a lot of bass and a lot of bark and girth, and that's why he's got such a big sound. And you know, but anyway, I'm going to leave it there, everybody. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope it's made some form of sense, and I hope there's something in here you can kind of take away and incorporate. And like I say, but if you are going for John's tone with a Fender amp, just get a pedal. It's just so much easier and less hassle. So anyway, hope you enjoyed this video, everybody. I'll see you again soon for another one. Have a great morning, afternoon, good evening. I need to go and lie down. My brain is fried because I'm terrified that I've just totally ruined this video. But hopefully it's okay, and I hope everything was okay. I hope it made sense at least. And yeah, I'll see you again, everybody. Have a great morning, afternoon, good evening. Goodbye now.